So do I start or do you, or Lily, you start, right?
Yeah, I usually introduce you, but I do feel like probably by now everybody knows who you are. But I can say again that Tim is our guest speaker joining us from the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center. He was a former guiding teacher of the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center and spent many decades building it to what it is today and still works there, supporting and doing a lot of different things, giving talks, mentoring, and I'm sure doing all sorts of things behind the scenes as well, and teaching. So he's going to be giving the talk today. He has quite an interest in Taoism, so I feel like there's a lot of good connections between his path and Stuart's path and the interest that they both share, because Stuart was also very into Buddhism. And last week I don't know if this is accurate, but Tim was saying that he got into all this stuff through a Taoist text. Like that was his first intro. I don't know if that's true. But Stuart's first intro to all this spiritual stuff was a Buddhist text. So I think that's kind of interesting if that is the case, that you guys kind of started off with one and then, switched paths, but maintained an interest in both. So I don't know if that's accurate, but that was what I was interpreting it as. So with that, I will welcome Tim. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Good to see all of you that I see and see the names of all of you that I don't see. But it would be good if you would, if possible, show your faces, because I feel like I'm speaking to not just blackness and with names attached to it. So those of you who are able to, it would be great if you showed your faces. Um, yeah, so this is uh, my next to last talk on Chuang-tzu. Uh, and this is similar to some other talks I've given, which a couple of you in the room have heard. And then when I'm finished this series, I'm going to be talking about the secret of the golden flower, which I've actually never talked about before. It's a beautiful piece that was written several hundred years after Zhuangzi did his writing. Um, well, let me get some light in this room first so I can see my notes. I'll be right back. I had light in the room, but I don't want to be backlit for the screen. Um, so, Shuangzi's, I'm going to be quoting Shuangzi throughout, starting with everything in itself is both good and bad, right and wrong, useful and useless. Everything in itself is both good and bad, right and wrong, useful and useless. And when I talked about this last time, probably a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I paired it with Shakespeare's "Nothing is good or bad, thinking makes it so." You see how they go together? Everything in itself is both good and bad, right and wrong, useful and useless, paired with Shakespeare's "Nothing is good or bad, thinking makes it so." So often we can't control stuff that goes on outside, but we can always control stuff that goes on inside. No one can take away our power to choose our thoughts and focus on the things that we care about. A lot of people have been dwelling on this ice invasion, which has been awful, although it's slowed down a little bit. And I've been trying to support people to find their gifts of just being alive. I've been quoting Zhuangzi to help them. We choose our thoughts. We choose our focus. The first protest I went to, I don't think I've talked about this. Maybe I have. Uh, uh, some time ago, maybe a month ago, everybody was chanting, "Fuck eyes, fuck eyes." Well, those thoughts are divisive. Those thoughts cut us off from the Tao, from the mother of the universe. So even though we wanted them out, that was a kind of bad vibe. But then I went to other protests that were good vibes, where people just walk quietly together, like those Tibetans walked from Texas to New York. Just walk quietly, and calmly, and it was wonderful. And then I went, after Alex Preddy died, I went down to where his death was, to the little memorial, and the restaurants were all closed, but the Black Forest Inn was open for people to come out of the cold. It was about 0 degrees, and they had food for us. So that's community. That's a sense of connectedness that comes when we don't get caught on a narrow thinking and open up. So I decided, after spending an afternoon doing this and several other afternoons, that I'm a Minnesotan. I've been here from California for years, but I never felt I was a Minnesotan before. But the way we supported each other and are supporting each other in calmness and in kind of collective appreciation of others' predicaments and others' suffering. I have friends who are serving meals to people who are afraid to go outside, friends who are picking people up from work. It's just beautiful. Zhuangzi would be happy. He would be happy because he's teaching us how to move beyond our narrow thinking, our narrow dualistic thinking. Instead of labeling unfair, even if it feels true, and it does feel true, but that fuels our suffering, we're hanging together as a community and doing meditative practices. Whether we do Zen meditation or Tai Chi or Qigong, we're hanging together, or something else, and doing meditative practices. We're practicing what I call rain without even knowing it. And I've talked about this before, and I've talked about it more in a Buddhist context, but it's very Taoist. We're practicing rain. Recognize, accept, inquire, and nurture. Recognize, accept, inquire, and nurture. Recognize that I have all feelings of anger and fear around Trump and what's her name, Kristi Noem. But Chuang-tzu advises me that the sage's mind, and we are all sages, the sage's mind is a still pond or a mirror that can recognize whatever comes up, to reflect whatever is there without distortion, including anger, including fear, not kicking them out. The mirror mind, the still mind, the open mind, the all-embracing mind, which comes from the Tao, the mother of the universe, lets everything in, recognizes everything. Simply noticing the waves of anger, acknowledging the present reality. Recognize in rain, accept or allow in rain, accept or allow the valley of the universe, the Tao, the feminine power of yielding that is all through the Tao Te Ching and all through Chuang-tzu. Acceptance, the ultimate expression of Wu Wei. The valley, our own center, deep and open, receiving everything without judgment. One of the most important Taoist symbols is water. Water. Water doesn't argue or say, when it's caught in a stream, like I was just at Minnehaha Creek, it caught in a stream and it can't find its way out now that the ice is beginning to melt. It doesn't say fuck the rocks. It's caught. It's caught, but it doesn't say fuck the rocks. It flows around it. It finds a crack. It finds a crack. Resisting an emotion is like trying to stop a river with your bare hands. It only exhausts you. When we accept our anger and fear, but not fight its current, nor indulge it, not fight it, nor indulge it. R.A. Recognize, accept, inquire. And sometimes I do, as some of you know, I do R-I-A-N, because we can't really accept, we need to inquire first. Where has my energy become blocked? Where is my chi? in Chinese Taoism. Qi become blocked. Is this feeling a result of me trying to be something I'm not? Tracing the stream back to its course, say the Taoists. Not trying to figure out, just tracing it back, just observing the movement of energy and noticing how it coagulates around your anger and your fear. Your anger and your fear, that when they're perpetuated, they're just coagulations. But they're strong coagulations. So then we ask, we inquire, where has my energy become blocked? Where has my qi become blocked? Or is this feeling a result of me trying to be something I am not? Deeply asking, deeply asking. R-A-I, or I-I-A, meaning you inquire and then you accept. You can't do this in a linear way, you just try to do it. And nurture this process, nurture the valley of the universe as it is, the great mother who nurtures us all just by being, providing the nurturing earth, the element to the fire of our distress. The earth, the nurturing element, doesn't fight the fire. It just opens and breathes, and the fire dissipates. The fire dissipates. R-A-I-N. Recognize, accept, inquire, and nurture. So I was working with a guy a couple of years ago who was about 60 and had a son in his 30s. So maybe this guy was in his 60s, had a son in his 30s. And this guy's daughter had just told him that his son felt he was very self-centered. And here the guy's 60 years old. He's had this relationship with his son for years, and he's never heard that before. He doesn't know that. So his recognize is that he has feelings of deep dismay. And he recognizes those feelings. He recognizes them. And then he acknowledges, he accepts the feelings that this is hard, this hurts. He breathes into it, he accepts it. And then he inquires, and he finds underneath his dismay grief, confusion. And then he finds under that a desire to learn and love, even though he's already in his 60s and his son's in his 30s. And a love which motivates him to spend time with his son. And he nurtures all that. He quits quarreling with himself mentally. Like, how could this have happened? How could he feel this way about me for all these years and I never knew it? What did I do wrong? Why didn't he tell me? No mental quarreling. Instead, recognizing when he begins to mental quarrel, inquiring, accepting, and nurturing. And the mental quarreling dissipates. It dissipates. This is what is. This is reality as it is. So a practice of rain lightens, softens our perspective. So we can really see. A couple of days ago, I went down to the creek south of us, Minnehaha Creek, and the snow is beginning to melt. This was when the day it was 49. I don't know, maybe it's gotten hard again. The snow was beginning to melt, and the trees were beginning to ooze a little bit of sap, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Have the sap already beginning to flow. Made me dream of spring, but this is Minnesota, so the dream didn't last long. But the Taoist sage teach us to see the flower before it buds. The Tao is always here, always supporting us, to see the sap before it unfreezes and to feel the sap inside us. That sap, that openness, that fluidity always inside us. practicing our meditation or our qigong or whatever it is we practice every day with patience and persistence, and we begin to know the difference between pain and suffering. Challenges bring pain, physical or emotional pain. Real suffering is the story we add. This shouldn't happen, my student said. It shouldn't happen to me at 64 years old. I took him to therapy 15 years ago, and he didn't say a thing, so I thought everything was fine. It's unfair. Our thoughts and our resistance create suffering, but we heal it through our meditative openness. We heal it by not getting caught by any stories, shifting our perspective, finding the hidden beauty, seeing the flower before it buds, feeling the sap before we can see it. We have wonderful control over our internal responses. Wonderful control. We have wonderful control about how we address challenges, but we have to do some kind of spiritual practice to settle into this control and feel it. It's not my control, it's the Valley of the universe acting through me, the Tao acting through me. Everything in itself is both good and bad, right and wrong, useful and useless, says Zhuangzi. Nothing is good or bad, only thinking makes it so, says Shakespeare. Stephen Mitchell, the Taoist scholar, says the tree that moves you to cheers of joy to others is only a green thing that gets in the way. The tree that moves you to tears of joy to others is only a green thing that gets in the way. Donald Trump, he's a huge thing that gets in the way. He and all of his minions, and hurts many, many people. Many, many people. But what did Ivanka say about him? Do you remember what she said? This was several years ago. She said to him, "I love you, Dad," with a heart emoji after there'd been an assassination attempt on him. "I love you, Dad." In 2022, she said, "I will always love and support my father. Going forward, I will do so outside the political arena." That's when she left politics. And she said again, "I'm extremely close with my father. That hasn't changed and will never change." She said that after his conviction in New York in the same year on charges of fraud. And then she shared a childhood photograph of herself and him. Nothing is good or bad. Only thinking makes it so. Nothing is good or bad. Only thinks it makes it so. Or Chuang-tzu, everything is both good and bad, right and wrong, useful and useless. That's the Valley of the universe, communicating just as it is. So I tell a story many times about meeting my teacher on the street in San Francisco, and he showed me a brown bag, and he opened it, and he said, "Look," and there were lots of fresh vegetables and in there, lettuce and broccoli and cauliflower. And wow, I thought it was beautiful. And then he said to me, "Only 3 days old." And all of a sudden it looked awful. I knew he'd been dumpster diving. He was a monk from Japan who was used to not having good food at all, but in the dumpster he was able to find better food than he could get at the monastery in Japan. So all of a sudden my perception changed. Only 3 days old. Then I looked in again, and the vegetables looked awful. And he said, "Would you like to come over for some soup?" And I said, "No, thank you." And I rushed off. This is true. This really happened. So, the tree that moves you to tears of joy to others is only a green thing that gets in the way. Meditation practice. opens us to the possibility to let go of our little Tim point of view, our little Nancy point of view, a little Tom point of view, a little Paul point of view. The master, says Zhuangzi, stands beyond opposites. She doesn't move toward or away. She sees things exactly as they are, beyond the distortions of even our best thoughts. But our best thoughts can still be supportive. Best thoughts are good. One of my mentees died a few months ago, and he was he had Alzheimer's and he had lung cancer, both. And when I mentored him in his early years, he didn't have those. And during probably my last session with him, he said something to me, I'm so worried about my children and what's going to happen to them, and I can't think clearly. And he didn't tell me about the cancer. I didn't know he had the cancer. And we talked about what he could do when he started to worry about it. And I said, remember, we had that class on mantras, and he didn't remember it. So I had, because he has Alzheimer's. But I told him about it. I said, is there something you can repeat to yourself? And so he reflected and he said, I can repeat to myself every time this comes up, every time I'm overwhelmed by worry and concern about my kids, I can just say, suffering, part of life, kindness. Suffering, part of life, kindness. So then I asked him to email me how it was going, and I never heard from him. So, and then I found out he died. But anyway, he repeated that for 10 minutes with me. Suffering, part of life, kindness. If he could do that, we can do that. Suffering's part of life, right? It's part of life. And we can be kind instead of self-criticize. The Valley of the Universe doesn't criticize us. The Tao, who's the mother of all things, doesn't criticize us. So, speaking of two cultures in collision, I really think we do have two cultures in collision now in the United States, the MAGA culture and the culture that most of us represent. Maybe not all of you, but most of you do. And they're in collision. And sometimes I think, is the Civil War over? The Civil War was supposed to be over 150 years ago, but it doesn't seem like it's over. Yikes. But the master stands beyond opposites. She doesn't move toward or away. She sees things exactly as they are. Well, exactly as they are is that there are still 35% of people who have one view of the world and 65% who have another view. It's just reality. It's reality. So, speaking of a collision of cultures, when both Buddhism and Taoism, both Zen and Taoism came to San Francisco in the 60s, I'm a 60 person from San Francisco, there was potentially a collision of cultures. There was a collision of the establishment culture and what we call the counterculture. We didn't call it that, but people told us we were the counterculture. It was a collision of cultures. And out of that grew really a coming together of Taoism and Zen to enter the mainstream, but it took a long time. But when at the very beginning of that collision, we had a Zenefit in San Francisco to raise money for this San Francisco Zen Center, which some of you have heard me talk about. We had a Zenefit. And we had, those of you who are old enough might remember this. Maybe even if you're not old enough, you'll remember this. We had Big Brother and the Holding Company, the Grateful Dead, the Jefferson Airplane, and Janis Joplin. Those of you who are black and white, don't raise your hands because I won't be able to see you, but those are Those of you on screen, how many of you know about this? And if you don't remember, heard about it? Well, many of you, yeah. So we had a Zenefit, and it was in either the Avalon Ballroom. You can still, if you go online, you can still find the flyer for it, or the something or other. I don't remember the name of the other place. My teacher Suzuki was there as a guest of honor, and his assistant Katagiri was there in the background. Well, this was very different than the Japanese had ever experienced, because there were light shows going all over the place. There were aromas of marijuana and other things. There were people dancing with colorful clothes. And the Japanese do everything very meticulously, very orderly. Everything's in place, everything's detailed, nothing is out of place, nothing is mixed together, but this was all mixed together. And I saw Katagiri, who later became my teacher, and was new to the United States, kind of hiding in the darkness. And Suzuki, as the guest of honor, had to sit up in the front row. And there he was sitting in the front row, and Janis Joplin played at the end, and it was time for him to get up and say something. And when Janis Joplin sang, as many of you know, most of you know, she sang her heart out. Talk about being free from yesterday and tomorrow. She sang her heart out. And so it was his turn to get up. And he got up, and the strobe lights were going all over his face while he got up. They finally turned them off because he was just standing there calmly. And he said, "Thank you very much. Thank you very much," because he knew this was raising money, although I don't know how much we raised. These guys we didn't have much money. But anyways, we got a lot of publicity. He said, "Thank you very much." He said, I think your way very different from ours, very different." And he said, "Now I see," after just having heard Janis Joplin, "not so different, not so different." And everybody yelled, "Yay, yay, yay, yay." So two cultures coming together. And I don't know if it's possible for the mega culture and our dominant culture to come together, but sooner or later they will have to come together. They will have to in some way or another, unless we're going to have another civil war. They will have to. So Zhuangzi says, flow like the Tao unhindered. And the metaphor of water he uses continually. I want to close by suggesting 6 features of water that really emanate from Taoist teaching and also from Zen teaching. Humility. Water always seeks the lowest point. Always goes to the lowest point. So when my teacher wanted me to take him to see a woman in a wealthy part of the San Francisco area who wanted his teaching, and I took him, and he was dressed in his black traveling robes, and he went up to her house and then came back. She was up on a big hill, and then came back, and he said, "Wrong, Mrs. Smith. She think I there to wash her windows." And then he guffawed. He laughed uproariously. Well, he was Japanese. This was the 60s. The only Japanese had all been dispossessed in California. The only Japanese we knew were manual laborers, except for him and a few others, because they'd been dispossessed. They'd been put in those concentration camps. So she thought he was there to wash her windows. And instead of thinking, oh, he thought it was the biggest joke. It was like he played a joke on her. He said, "Too bad I know bring my squeegee." And for months afterwards, he said, "Oh, next time we go out, I bring my squeegee." So water, humility, but not fake humility, not fake humility. Resilience is the second one, resilience, taking the shape of any container, flexible, adapting to circumstances without resistance. And he adapted to those circumstances in many different ways. And the younger teacher who finally learned to adapt, it takes a while. Katagiri, who became the guiding teacher here, but at first he was pretty freaked out by our behavior because it was so different than their culture. So different than their culture. Third one, feature of water. First is humility, second, resilience, third, persistence. Despite its gentle nature, water persistently flows, and it can wear away even the hardest substances. At first, when I was meditating with my teacher, only 3 or 4 people. In San Francisco, really, only 3 or 4. Oh, no, maybe 4, 5, or maybe 8. Now, meditations all over the country, hundreds and hundreds of people. Patience and persistence, patience and persistence. The last one, those are the first 3, humility, resistance, persistence. The next one, unconditional kindness. Like a river, water nourishes everything in its path. Actions of kindness without expecting a reward just are nourishing. We just get nourished. And the 5th one, reflecting everything just as it is. That's what water knows how to do. And when it's calm and clear, it reflects everything just as it is. And we can do that. This is our Buddha mind, our still mind, our Tao. It's not our Tao, it's not our Buddha mind, because it's the valley of the universe. It is ours, but we're also part of it. We're part of it. And finally, 6th one is trust. Trust. Water is able to trust. Trust its just way around, find its way around, find its way around, find its way through, find its way through. My teacher used to talk about taming. This is in Zen mind, beginner's mind, although it's in a different phrase. To tame or a restless horse, you don't beat it or pull the reins tight. You give it a wide open pasture, the valley of the universe, a wide open pasture. You let the horse roam, but you watch it. By giving the mind space to be itself without forcing it into some container, it eventually settles down and knows how to find its way home. You have to trust. You have to trust that if you do a meditation practice, persistently and patiently and persistently, you'll find your way back to your true home, which is right here, to your big mind, to your mirror mind, to the valley of the universe, which you are an emanation of already. Already, your big mind knows how to be in balance. If you stop interfering with your stop interfering with your small, anxious, conscious mind, trying to get it, trying to make sense of it. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Our deep pure nature knows the way home. It always knows the way home. It always does. And that takes patience, persistence, and some trust. Which we can learn from great teachers. But the great teachers are not necessarily in human form. They're just maybe hanging out at Minnehaha Creek and really being there. Really, really hearing the snow is starting to break up. Really looking at the sky. Really watching the green as it starts to come out of those trees that have been so quiet and still for the whole winter. And that's what I want to say this morning. I'll be happy to, let's see, oh, it looks like there's 20 minutes left, so be happy to entertain any questions or comments that anyone has.
Can I be allowed to say something?
Sure, anybody can say
Go
anything.
ahead, Danny.
But
Okay.
who's talking now? Let's see.
It's Denis.
Would you
from,
raise your hand so I can see you?
But we can spotlight.
Oh, hi,
you can, yeah, whatever. I just
Denise.
want to make a comment regarding Taoist practice and your insights in Chuang-tzu or Chuang-tzu and regarding practice. And what I've witnessed, I'm from Winnipeg, so I'm in Canada. And what I've witnessed in Minnesota is a organic movement that happened spontaneously and persisted in its resistance over a long period of time. And in Buddhist and Taoist practice, that's exactly what you do, is you practice persistently over a long period of time. No violence was needed in order to push back, other than throwing snowballs. And so I think specifically talking about the political climate that we're in now, it's very divisive. And what's happening, I think, collectively is that people who are right-minded are behaving correctly. And if we look at all these scriptures and all of these philosophical points, this is exactly how a group of people and individuals should behave when they're in a position of crisis like this. And I think it's important for people to understand, regardless of their political position, that wrong is wrong and it needs to be pushed back, but it needs to be pushed back in a nonviolent way. And that's exactly what Minnesota did. And now Minnesota is being used as the light standard of how to resist in a correct way over a long period of time, months, not just days or weeks, against a serious threat to your livelihood and to people's well-being. In Canada, the same thing happened. It happened organically. There's no movement that decided that, no, the snowbirds aren't going south. So it was just an organic reaction to the insults being thrown at our prime minister and calling us the 51st state and all that stuff. It was just ridiculous. We all laughed at it, but we took it seriously too. To give you another example, we were the only people in the NATO conference last February to stand up to this rhetoric when Europe would say nothing. And it was an organic reaction by a particular person. He's a retired politician and MP, but he's also now involved with the so-called Midas Touch network. So it was an organic reaction, and it's persisted throughout. And I think it's important that people understand that.
That's wonderful. I'm going to cut you off, Denise, but
Sure.
that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm just cutting you off to give other people time, that's all. But that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, yes. Now maybe I think I want to be a Minnesotan and a Canadian. You think I can do that?
I just want to say I really loved what you said about, just remembering that the Tao is there even when it's like not visible, when it's under the surface, like the buds that are, not yet coming out, but they're, in the works, and the sap is always running through us of the Tao, and just reminding ourselves of that even when it doesn't look like that on the outside, when it looks icy in multiple ways. And that was very helpful reminder, and felt very calming to me to hear that.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Lily. Thank you. Karina.
I have recently learned that Minneapolis is being proposed for the Nobel Peace Prize, and there was a petition being started. Is that true? And if yes, how can I support that?
I know nothing about it. It sounds really cool. Does anybody know about it? Anybody know about it?
I understand it was from a magazine called Nation that I don't know anything about.
I read Nation on occasion, but I haven't lately. I'm all for it.
Absolutely. I was so proud of Minneapolis. They prevented civil war from happening.
And now it's up to us. It's up to us to continue. It's up to us and luckily we have Sangha. In Buddhism we say Sangha is really important, but in Taoism, Sangha is important too. And all I mean is community. It takes more than one of us to in love and in sense of camaraderie to do this together. There is safety in numbers. It's so hard to do it by ourselves.
Tim, thank you. Tim K has his hand raised.
Tim Kennedy, hi.
Yeah, hi. You used a quote, I just caught the beginning. She stands beyond the opposites. Could you run that by me again?
Oh, sure. I have to look at my notes, but yeah, I can do that. I can't find it, but we don't have to be caught by opposites. We really don't have to be. Opposites our mind thinks in terms of duality. And we need a mind that thinks in terms of duality. But in the Valley of the Universe, there are no opposites. Everything is manifesting. Everything is growing from the valley. And some of those trees that grow are stunted and afraid, and maybe they put out briars because they're stunted and afraid, or poison. But they're also manifestations of the Valley of the Universe. So we can feel this and we don't get caught by good or bad, yesterday or tomorrow, or ice or no ice. Doesn't mean we wimp out. Actually, we're stronger when we don't get caught by that stuff. And I should be able to find the quote, but I don't see it here. I don't see it here.
That's okay. I'll try to get it from you later.
Yeah.
Ask ChatGPT.
Oh, the master stands beyond opposites. She doesn't move toward or away. She sees things exactly as they are. Beyond the distortions. I mean, we distort to protect ourselves, right? And to protect those people we love. But anything that does not include its opposite is a distortion. You guys agree? Or do you get it? Do you agree? And that means really paying attention to our minds, paying attention to how when we just get a little bit scared about something, how we divide off, whether it's our best friend or our kitty or something political.
Yeah, Tim, that reminds me first of like the tetralemma of like the opposites, but then like where you do the even more like negations and stuff. So it's like even taking it further than opposites. And it also reminds me of like there's a lot of forms of inquiry where there's like reversals where you're supposed to be like, okay, she's mean to me. And then you like ask yourself, like, okay, how am I mean to her? How am I mean to myself? How is she nice to me? Like you'll inquire, and you can always find opposites whenever you do these opposite inquiries, and there's a whole bunch of different ones. You can always find like, oh yeah, like this, you can find evidence of all of those things, so you can really prove it in every case like you're talking about.
Thank you. Very good, Lily. This reminds me of the Heyoka tradition. Do any of you know? Raise your hand if you've heard of the Heyoka tradition. One. Two. Well, I did spend quite a while, maybe 5 years, studying practicing on Rosebud Reservation with a guy named Elmer Running. And he said the most important people there were the Heyokas. And those are the people who do everything the opposite from everybody else. It really disrupts things. But the Heyokas are, considered numero uno is the medicine man, and numero dos is the Heyoka. And now, I have to say, in Japanese Zen, they don't get that. but in Taoism, they get that. In Taoism, they get it. And of course, in Zen, they get it because, just as Lily said, the tetralemma means the tetralemma means there are 4 different positions. When I teach the tetralemma, I haven't taught it lately, but I teach people to take 4 different positions in the room. The first, think about something that they deeply believe in. then to move and entertain its opposite. And then to move a second time and entertain both it and its opposite. And then to move a third time and entertain neither it nor its opposite. That's the tetralemma in Buddhism. So that's good Zen. But they could use a little Heyoka stuff too. I mean, that is Heyoka stuff in a way.
Yeah, I think that there's a Taoist immortal who rides his donkey backwards.
Is there? Yeah, well, that would be a good example, right?
Yeah, or I think of like the Hanged Man in tarot. I don't know much about tarot, but one teacher I listened to, she says it's about like doing the opposites. Like if you feel like you're in a hurry, you should slow down.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like Imelda has her hand up. So Imelda,
Okay.
do you want to speak?
Who is that? Henry? Oh, that's Imelda. Hi,
Imelda.
Imelda.
Thank you for taking my question. Thank you for being here today, Tim. It's been a while since we saw you, so I appreciate you sharing all of your profound wisdom and just that sense of grounding. I really appreciate all of your stories and your wisdom. Can you name a couple of books that a beginner would benefit from? Like, I can't go into the Zen Buddhist temple in Karachi or, wherever the Himalayas. I can only start from where I'm at. And I just was wondering if you would, some of your favorite books that you've kept with you that were the most helpful for you at the beginning of your practice.
Well, remember, I started in the 1960s. In the 1960s, Alan Watts was very helpful to me.
Yes.
WATTS.
Yeah, no, I know. Yes.
Very helpful. Very
Yes.
helpful.
Yes, he's the best, definitely. Well, I listened to him for 20 years on KPFK.
Oh yeah. Well, he actually came to my college and spoke. He didn't.
Oh, wow.
He wasn't a meditator. He was a drinker. So I didn't really want to follow him, but I did follow him. I just I found Suzuki, and he and Suzuki got along well. But
Was he living
he
in
was a
Sausalito?
drinker, and Suzuki was a sitter, a meditator.
Was Alan Watts living in Sausalito?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was in Sausalito. I went to school in Palo Alto, and he came down to give a talk. And even back then, people were not that interested in meditation, but maybe we had 25 people come. That was a big deal because, already his books have been around and pretty famous.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm reaching out is because I really feel like civilization is at the precipice right now with all this me, and
Yes.
immorality and
Yes.
just what we're seeing. And I'm almost to the point where what's the point anymore? I don't even.
Well,
I
yes.
just feel like we're at World War III. It's all over. I mean, the bombs, people didn't know when they were in World War II that it was World War II until it was.
Yes, but let's not forget what it was like in China and Japan, where the Taoists and the Zen people were living. I mean, in China, there were mass slaughters of people
Yes.
during the Tang Dynasty, and that's when Zen started. And so meditation became all the more important because everybody realized civilization was on a precipice. And my two teachers came out of World War II, came out of Hiroshima. Yikes. Yikes. So human beings have been on and off a precipice ever since the beginning of time. And I'm not saying, we could all fall off now because of climate change, but we can still practice this deep practice where we feel connected to everyone and everything. We can still do that. We just have to limit our media. Very important. Limit our negative self-talk. Very important.
That's how they control us, really, is that negative self-talk. Thank you.
Yeah, also I want to say, Tim has some great books. Like this is one of them. Nothing Holy About It. And then he has Zen in the Age of Anxiety. And his most recent book is Enlightenment is an Accident and Practice Makes You Accident Prone. So those are all good places to start as
Yeah.
well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Lily.
Yeah, and reading books is a great thing to do when you're not doom scrolling.
Yeah. So nothing holy about it is that comes from a line. The emperor met the founder of Zen, Bodhidharma, who was sitting and meditating in a cave. And the emperor, who was a Buddhist himself, trying to be a Buddhist, said to the emperor, well, what's the first principle of your holy teaching? And Bodhidharma said, a vast spaciousness with nothing holy about it. The Tao, the valley of the universe, doesn't know about holy. It's just alive. The chi energy. We're all a manifest. Even this computer screen is manifesting the chi energy just now. Wow. Wow. Nothing holy about it, because as soon as we glom onto the holy, then what about the unholy? Well, let's see. Oh, I don't know. One more thing, or are we done, you guys?
Yeah, let's see. Does anybody have any more questions? Or we can. It looks like Nancy has a question.
Nancy.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say, yes, Minneapolis was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and it's the first time a city has ever been nominated.
Wow, that's cool, Nancy. That's cool. Well, will they look at that seriously, do you think?
Who knows?
Well, they're
I
in
think they
Europe.
will.
They're in
I think they
Europe,
will.
and you know, my daughter lives in France, and of course she's from Minnesota, and the people were asking her, do you know where Minnesota is? She said, I'm from Minnesota. They said, no, where is it? She said, it's north. It's very cold and snowy. She said, well, they said, oh, you're from it. So all of a sudden she's a big deal in Paris because she's from Minnesota. They had never heard of it before. So yes, let's advocate for the Nobel Peace Prize for Minneapolis. But the best way to advocate for it is to live from the valley of the universe. That's the best way to advocate for it. It doesn't mean we can't advocate, but when we do it with love. We do it with a sense of connectedness, with a sense of pride.
Well, thank you so much, Tim, and thank you everybody for being here. We can probably end there.
Thank you. Thank you, Lily.
Yeah, thank you all for all your questions. It was just great to see everybody and be with you. And thank you so much, Tim, for this talk. It was really wonderful. We really appreciate it.
Very welcome. You're very welcome.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.